Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Keith. I'm Keith Amemiya, candidate for mayor, and this is a bi-monthly talk story session with prominent people in our community to talk about the issues of the day. And I'm pleased to have three wonderful guests today, and we're going to talk about sports in Hawaii and the effect of COVID on local sports. As we all know, COVID has affected every aspect of our life, and sports is no different. It's impacted college sports, professional sports, high school sports, youth sports, and club sports. And we have three wonderful guests on our panel today, and I will introduce them and we'll get going into the discussion. Our first guest is Kevin Wong. He's a Punahou and UCLA graduate, three-time All-American volleyball standout turned beach volleyball player. And as many of you know, he's now an NBC sports analyst for the Summer Olympics and also beach volleyball as well. Kevin is also the founder and director of Spike and Serve, a volleyball club program that's highly successful for youth of all ages in Hawaii. So welcome, Kevin.
Thanks a lot, Keith. It's good to be on here with some big stars. You know, I'm just a Pearl City boy, but we got the big stars out here tonight.
Well, you're far too humble. You're a big star yourself. Anyway, our next guest is my successor as the Hawaii High School Athletic Association Executive Director. He's had that role since March of 2010. He's done a great job running high school sports across the state for us. Let's welcome Chris Chun. Chris is a product of Iolani School where he played football and baseball. He's also a graduate of the William S. Richardson School of Law. Chris was a former litigation attorney where he represented the Oahu Interscholastic Association and, among other things, helped create the first statewide eligibility rule for high school sports. So welcome, Chris.
Well, thanks, Keith. Thank you. Thanks for having me here. It's great to be here at this Punahou alumni reunion with this one Iolani graduate, but I'm still happy to be here.
Well, we make exceptions once in a while, Chris, so but joking aside, we're glad you're here, and thank you for joining us. And last but not least, we have Carissa Moore. I'm excited that Carissa's been able to join us tonight. She's a Punahou alum and a professional surfer. She's held 4 world titles. She's the reigning women's world surfing champion, and we couldn't be prouder of her. She has many more accomplishments, but among others, Carissa was inducted already into the Surfers Hall of Fame. She will represent the United States in the upcoming Tokyo Olympics, if we have a Tokyo Olympics, and hopefully we will. And Carissa also had her own Carissa Moore Day in Hawaii on January 4th. So thank you for joining us, Carissa, and welcome.
Thanks for having me, Keith. It's really nice to be here with you and Kevin and Chris. It should be a fun chat this evening.
All right, well, let's get into it. As I mentioned earlier, our topic is the future of sports in Hawaii in a COVID environment. So let's get the questions going. First, we have Carissa, and the question for you, Carissa, is tell us about the effects of COVID on you personally and professionally.
So personally, not much has changed. You know, I feel very fortunate to be home in Hawaii during this time. Throughout the pandemic, we've been able to still get in the water every day. And I didn't realize how much of a hermit I am. I go surfing and then I go home most of the time anyway and just chill at home until I go back to the beach. So my daily routine has not changed much. On a professional level, I was looking forward to competing in the Olympics this summer. So that has been postponed, as well as all the little trips that I do in between. But you know, I'm trying to look at it positively and really embrace this time.
Okay, got it. And I know in your spare time, besides surfing and working out, I see you go hiking with your dog or dogs. Wait, do you have 1 or 2 dogs?
We have 2 dogs now. We recently adopted a dog, another dog.
So I see
Yes.
you enjoying the mountains and the outdoors with your two dogs. And you also help serve meals on a couple occasions at Palolo Elementary School, and you help serve meals to healthcare workers and domestic violence survivors and their children. So thank you for helping us in that regard as well, Carissa. So thanks.
Of course, Keith, thank you so much for the invites and for doing what you do for the community. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Carissa. Okay, our next question is for Chris Chun. Um, for those of you that don't know Chris or the HHSAA, Chris, why don't you tell everyone about the HHSAA and your role as the executive director, and what's the hardest and what's the most rewarding part of your job?
Oh, okay, so that's a big question, but so basically the HHSA is a private nonprofit entity. We're the educational athletic organization that's in charge of serving the 96 public and independent member high schools statewide. We operate 44 state championships in 18 different sports, and behind the scenes, we establish consistent standards and rules for eligibility and competition, in addition to advocating for the health and safety on behalf of student athletes statewide. I guess the hardest part of the job is, ironically, I remember when I first met you, we met and we were talking about this job, and you were telling me, oh, Chris, just so you know, this is going to be the hardest job in the state of Hawaii. And at that time, I didn't really think so, but then I actually do think so now. But now I actually think that you're actually trying for the hardest job in the state of Hawaii now. So it's kind of neat. But I do remember that conversation we had when I first got this job 10 years ago. I guess just the hardest job is having to make unpopular decisions, even when you know it's right. I guess there's only one winner at the end of the year. And so watching everyone lose the whole way, it hurts because you can feel it in all the kids, and just wanting to listen to everyone. It's really tough because it can be draining emotionally. So I think that's the hardest part. But the rewarding parts is like everything you see you do in the community, all the good stories you see, your direct impacts. It's just your experiences that you've built locally and nationally, and just seeing like what it's done for my family and my son and all the kids his age and your kid and everyone's children, because we all have kids around the same age now, and then it's just great to see how it's helped and how big a role sports has played.
Okay, great answer, Chris. And if we have time, you're gonna have to explain to Carissa, Kevin, and I why and when surfing will be a high school sport as well as beach volleyball. But we'll save that for later later on. So Kevin, tell us a little about your volleyball, your club, Spike and Serve, and how many kids you serve, and just generally what you guys do. I know you do a lot, but why don't you share that with our audience?
We've got 18 teams, but I feel like our club teams are kind of just one piece of what we do. We do a lot of outreach programs, do a lot of things in Papakolea over the years. We've been really active out on the West Coast, Maili Community Park and Waianae. And for me, it was like when I transitioned towards the pro days that Carissa's in right now, towards the post pro days, I was just trying to stay active. I was trying to give back. I've been so lucky. I had so many good coaches over the years, and this is my chance to kind of pay it forward a little bit.
Sounds good, and you have indeed paid it forward, time and time again, Kevin. And what I like about you, Chris, and Carissa is, besides excelling in your various fields, you like me, I'd like to think, view giving back to the community as an important part of your life and your work. So thank you for all you do as well, Kevin. Our next set of questions, and I didn't craft all of them, so Chris, don't get mad at me, but here's Carissa's question for you. Since we have the head of the HHSAA with us, do you think surfing should be a HHSAA sport in Hawaii, the birthplace of surfing? If that's not a leading question, I don't know what is, but Carissa, go for it. Tell us, I'm with you.
It would be awesome to have surfing a part of the high school. curriculum. I think it would be awesome that if it, the school system supported surfers. I definitely think that there's something really special about a team setting. My sister went to Kamehameha and she's a part of the surf team there, and she loved being a part of the team. So I think that would be awesome. I mean, I actually competed by myself as a solo Punahou team in the high school sports and NSSA, and it would have been really fun if there was more of a team. So yes, I think it would be awesome to see that all come together at some point, especially since we are the birthplace of surfing, and other places in the nation have been able to do it. But I know it's logistic. There's a lot of logistics behind it, and it is tough. But yeah, Chris, it would be awesome to hear what you have to say and what you see for the future of surfing and beach volleyball. It would be really cool.
I second that motion. That's a really good idea, Carissa.
Well, in Chris' sense, it's not totally within his control, so we're picking on him a little too much. And
don't feel this horrible amount of pressure. I'm just curious.
Well, before we let Chris answer it, I will say that Carissa and I were at a big announcement. I mean, it was like 8 years ago, I think, where we were Governor Abercrombie. Then Governor Abercrombie talked about having surfing as a high school sport. It didn't work out, but like Carissa said, there's a lot of logistical hurdles, but I think we can overcome it. And I'm gonna give it another go. And Chris, let's see, maybe we can make it happen. But yeah, tell us where that stands right now in high school sports in terms of surfing as a possibility.
So I don't think the logistical aspect is the real issue here. Because as you know, like I'm for adding sports and for especially sports like beach volleyball. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing that beach volleyball is a high school sport in Arizona that has no beaches and it's not in Hawaii. And surfing, but for surfing, the Maui Interscholastic League does surfing. They hold regular season championships. It's pretty much the leagues have to adopt it. So we have to get it into the schools. We have to get it into the leagues. I think the OIA and ILH do it as club sports. If those leagues adopt it as regular high school sports, then essentially become a state championship. Because then, as you know, Keith, we'll have 3 leagues with 3 schools participating. So it's not as far off as people think. We just have to get the schools to adopt it, and then the leagues will adopt it, and then it'll become to the state level. And I think we have a lot of sponsors that are willing to step up. We have a lot of organizers that are willing to help us, and then we'll have people like Carissa out there helping us. So I look forward to the day. And for beach volleyball, I mean, Kevin he essentially runs a kind of a de facto state championship as it is already. So I think it's on the cusp too. We just have to keep going, because I think the momentum is there, and those are the next 2 sports that should be definitely added.
Well, that's great to hear, Chris. I'm excited, and you mentioned in terms of sponsorships and funding, I know we can do it, through Kevin's contacts in the volleyball community and volleyball world, and even Carissa in the surfing community through her contacts and her sponsors. I mean, even locally, I know Town and Country, among others, are excited about doing what they can to make it happen. Even the volunteers that make surf meets and volleyball competitions happen have already volunteered their time. So I'm confident sooner or later we can do it. I've learned in Hawaii, you have to have patience and persistence. And I have a lot of both. And so I know you do, Chris. And so let's make it happen for surfing and beach volleyball. But we picked on Chris enough, so let's segue to some other topics for now. Carissa, next question for you is, I already asked you about that. Let's go to Chris. Chris, we won't ask you about surfing or beach volleyball with this question. Clearly, spring sports were affected this past spring. You had to cancel all high school sports due to COVID in the spring. Tell us about the decision to shut them down, the difficulty of doing that, and tell us about the upcoming fall season and the prospects of having high school sports in the fall.
So the decision wasn't really a difficult one, because it was kind of made for me by the state and the counties essentially. But the impact was extremely difficult because, as you know, I coach intermediate baseball. My son plays varsity baseball, and I'm experienced it as an administrator of the HHSA. So I felt it in all three ways, except for as an actual athlete. I felt it in all three ways, the same way most families in the state felt it. And it drove me to tears. It literally made me cry. And it was one of the hardest decisions, hardest things I had to do in my life, carry out in my life. And I hope I never have to do it again. As for the fall season, once we shut it down, we're working hard. We turned all our momentum to the fall, and we want to get it going. So we're going to do whatever we can to get it going. And it might be shorter seasons. We might start a little later. There might be some kind of rule modifications, but right now it looks like it should go, and it'll be the kind of fall season that everyone expects. And hopefully the state does what it has to do and the counties do what they have to do so we can get back to playing. We can open up and get back to playing sports in the fall.
Okay, great. That's great to hear. But of course, we can't control COVID and the spread, and let's just cross our fingers that it's maintained, and doesn't spike. And if it doesn't, I think we can have a full-fledged high school sports season. Well, since we're on the topic of resuming sports, or at least high school sports, Kevin, what do you know of the professional tour, and beach volleyball, and what's their plans, if anything?
Yeah, everyone's in a wait and see holding period. California, which is where a lot of the AVP events are, they're pretty much shut down. They actually, there were so many people out there playing beach volleyball. They actually had people go across the beach, take down the nets. That wasn't good enough. They took down the poles. So it's been a little bit of a setback in California. Chris talked about some of the tears shed as well. Like some of those conversations I had with some of our volleyball boys where this was their senior year, looking forward to going out with a bang. They'd put so much time and effort into it. And like for them to have that, lose graduation, it's been a painful time in the community. And I really feel it on the ground level.
Yeah, it's a rough situation. Now, Carissa, what's the status of the World Surf League, and when they might resume, or what do you know, if anything?
Well, I don't know too much. There are rumors of some like regional events going on. But I think there will be a big announcement in early July whether there will be like a full season or not. It is pretty difficult for just mobilizing so many people from all over the world, and different places have different travel restrictions, and so that's I think one of the most difficult things right now with COVID. But I'm hoping at least by next year things will have passed and we'll be able to start and resume a full season with a lot of excitement and a refreshed perspective.
Right. I guess surfing is similar to the Olympics, because you're having people from all over the world congregate in one place, and that increases the chances of the spread. Unfortunately, I think that's like with surfing, the Olympics has that same challenge. It's tough to ward off against the spread of COVID when you have people coming internationally to one place at one time. So anyway, we just got to cross our fingers and hope they find a vaccine. Basically, that's the key to resuming everything like it was before. So anyway, thanks for your answers, guys. Kevin, tell us, on the local level, how COVID affected your spike and serve, because a lot of the facilities were shut down, and I know a lot of people tried to modify and work out at home, work out in open areas. What did you guys do during the shutdown, and how did you try to work around the lack of facilities?
Yeah, that was the big challenge, right? Is how do you keep people connected? And for us, we kind of went on a Zoom tear. Got college coaches. We had Carrie Walsh-Jennings, Misty May. We had all the gold medalists from our sport come and talk to us. Got to build some really good networks with college coaches across the country. So much so, I think our kids were a little zoomed out by the end of the month, and we kind of went away. At the same time, we kind of tried to keep some creative workouts. So I had Rado Parapunov coming over in my garage gym, and he was leading the kids through workouts on Zoom. I had another player, Jace Ashman, who was helping out as well. And just trying to keep it fun, keep it energized, keep the kids around their friends, right? Because for a lot of kids, it's sports, but even more important might be those connections and those bonds with their teammates.
Sure, that's a good point. I mean, that's an important aspect of sports that some people tend to overlook. It's the sport itself obviously is important, but it's the relationships that you develop that make it even more special. So, good point, Kevin. Okay, next round of questions. Let's go back to you, Kevin. Were you going to be on the broadcast team for the Olympics in Tokyo?
I was all set. I was excited. I was going to play hooky from my beach volleyball position and go watch Carissa a little bit as well. So in some ways, I feel like I'm in a holding pattern there. I've already kind of locked in my berth for next year too. But they're changing a lot of things. So they're doing a lot of the production where maybe the in front of camera people will be there, but a lot of our production people will be back in the East Coast. Some will be in London, England. It's kind of turning into a little bit of an XCast, like Spectrum OC16 style.
Yeah, where, like you said, where the play-by-play people aren't actually at the site. They're watching it on TV like everyone else and trying to do the play-by-play. So, yeah, that'll be unique, and we'll see if they do that. But like you, Kevin, I had grand plans to watch Carissa in Tokyo, representing our country, going for the gold, but it wasn't meant to be. And maybe next year, hopefully next year, we can see Carissa in action in Tokyo. So let's cross our fingers on that. Anyway, so moving around, down to the next round of questions. Carissa, so as someone born and raised in Hawaii, what were the keys for you that may have been unique to growing up here that helped make you a world champion?
Well, I think having such good surf here, the whole island, you have a variety of different waves, from small to playful to big and challenging. So it was I felt like I grew up in a place that I could really be well-rounded and prepare myself for that professional level. I also feel like at every spot I've kind of, you create friendships and a family, and having that support has really, I think, really backed me and helped me believe in myself and taken me to that next level, to feel like when I paddle out, these people have my back, and that it's almost like you're surfing for something bigger than yourself. And that means a lot. I think just growing up in Hawaii and being close to my family and my friends and having that support, and that aloha has really helped me grow and flourish, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, great answer, and I agree with you. And I've had the privilege of meeting people like you and Kevin and other world-class athletes from Hawaii, and to a person, they mention being from Hawaii, the bonds you share. In high school, like Kevin and Chris mentioned, there's high school rivalries, and you maybe kind of don't like people from other schools, or at least on the court or on the field. But once you get past that, and once you meet up again on the continent or other places in the world, it's the Hawaii thing, where I think you have a bond and you push for each other. You want each other to excel, and then you also feel the pressure, but also the privilege, I've been told, of representing the state of Hawaii wherever you go. You're proud of it, you're mindful of that, and you want to do our state and yourself and your family proud. And I truly believe that is a key to success for many of our world-class athletes, like you folks, Kevin and Carissa, and Marcus Mariota has mentioned it. Shane Victorino has mentioned that in baseball. Like when he steps to the plate, when he was playing, he reminded himself he was representing the whole state, and it kind of gave him that extra mana, if you will, to do well. And so I think you, Carissa, can relate to that, and Kevin as well. So
Yeah.
and
I also have to give credit to the incredible talent pool of surfers here in Hawaii as well. And I think having that friendly competition, being able to train with people, my peers on a daily, but then also having our regional events, and having that healthy competition. I think my whole generation have Bethany Hamilton, Alana Blanchard, Coco Ho, Malia Manuel, just to name a few. All of them have gotten to the professional level and have really found success. And so there's definitely that healthy rivalry that pushed me when I was younger.
that's an excellent point, Carissa, and that's true in all the other sports, whether it's volleyball, right, Kevin, or even baseball and football. Like, I mean, again, pivot back to football. During the high school season, our young athletes are rivals, but in the off season, a lot of them train together, especially quarterbacks at St. Louis School. Coach Vinny Passis, the quarterback guru, he doesn't only train St. Louis quarterbacks, but whoever wants to go, as long as they're willing to put in the work in the classroom and on the field, whether they're from Punahou or Campbell or Kahuku or Mililani, they all work together. And like Carissa said, they push each other to be the best that they can be. So excellent points, Carissa. Okay, Chris, the question for you is about school facilities, and they're under a lot of pressure for usage, and how do you guys manage that on the high school level, and how do you manage that, dealing with, there's competing interests even in the community leagues, or people like Kevin who want facilities. What's your take on facilities, and how do you manage that in a rather landlocked and small island state like Hawaii?
Yeah, so as you know, when you dealt with this job, that we could always use better facilities. We could always use more facilities. We have to share. So many teams have to share so many gyms. So many baseball and softball teams have to share so many fields. And not only are you competing with the high school kids, you're competing with the club kids. You're competing with the little leagues, the recreational leagues as well. So like I just think that there can be more. I mean, there can be more done for our student athletes. And I think that when you were in this job, you did a good job in that you looked for private partnerships. You tried to improve the facilities that we did have and make it better for the kids. And I think more people need to do that. And we need more private partnerships that we can step up. Like a perfect example is like the Roosevelt scoreboard. And when you help that field in Nuuanu. So, we need more stuff like that, and more people willing to step up like that, and then we'll have more facilities. And I think the county and the state should prioritize the facilities, especially for our state championships and our high school fields. It's hard for us to set the dates as is, and Kevin knows because we're always trying to rearrange our schedules so we can get the Blaisdell, so we can get Stan Sheriff Center. And I understand that there's concerts and there's the university that has to use it. But I mean, these are venues that our kids want to play with, and that might be the biggest games of their lives. So it would be great that if we could prioritize it for them.
Yep, agreed. I mean, again, it's no one's fault really, but we're in a landlocked state. And if there's one thing that does hold us back a bit is the lack of facilities and fields for our various sports. We just don't have enough of them. And so that's a challenge that I think all of us are working on to improve upon. So along those lines, Kevin, whatever happened? Wasn't there talk of creating a sand volleyball or beach volleyball facility in Kaka'ako? And what's the status of that?
Wow. Yeah, you said patience and persistence, and maybe I didn't have enough patience. Maybe I didn't have enough persistence. Like people talk about green space, right? But green space ends up being havens for things that aren't really great happening. And those green spaces could be a private-public partnership that creates opportunities. the opportunities for kids are definitely held back by more access to facilities.
Yeah. Well, again, that's a problem that I think we all need to put our heads together and try to tackle. And I don't know if have you been to Chicago like in the summer along the lake and seen the beach volleyball courts? There's
Yes.
like dozens, maybe hundreds, right, Kevin? Literally
They have
along.
160 courts that are packed from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. They have social game, and it's not, it's not all like high level. Sometimes it's junior, sometimes it's rec leagues and kind of the adult social scene. And while we're talking about it, how much space do we need for a wave pool, the Carissa Moore wave pool? Let's do this thing up.
You took my next question away from
Oh,
me.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. So, Carissa, I was going to ask you, what do you think of? Would you be in favor of one? And yeah, what's your thoughts on creating a wave pool facility on Oahu?
Well, I'm definitely biased. I am in favor of a wave pool on Oahu. I think that there are wave pools popping up everywhere, and so for the next generation to keep up and elevate our sport here, sport of surfing here in Hawaii, I think it needs to happen just to be able to keep pace with everyone else. I think it's like we've talked about and mentioned, like sport is so good for youth. Like it just keeps the kids focused. It definitely kept me in a positive place and out of trouble, and I think surfing has taught me so many life lessons, and I think it would be great. It would be a great facility for kids. There's so many different things that you could do with the wave pool, not only for training, but for school events, for professional events, maybe. I think there would be a lot of use out of it. I really do. I think it would be a positive thing. So I don't know. That's just my take.
Yeah, I think most people are in agreement with you that the good far outweighs the bad, and hopefully we can see a wave pool facility sometime soon. And to your point, that can be a place for high school meets and meets in general. And the other beauty of a wave pool is you're not subject to the whims of Mother Nature too, right? Right? So don't you agree, Carissa? Yeah. So
Oh, absolutely. I think there will be a lot of local people too lining up at the doors when it's flat and there's no swells. So I'll definitely be getting my ticket when there's a week of flat on the charts.
okay, great. Well, thanks for your answers. What we're gonna pivot to next, and as we wind down the show, is some like lightning round questions. So just quick questions with quick answers, and I'll wrap up with some final thoughts. So here's the first question that let's stay in order of the guests. Carissa, what's your favorite thing about living on Oahu?
My favorite thing about living on Oahu is my family. Everyone is here. I'm 10 to 15 minutes away from all of my family members. My dad lives 30 seconds or a 15-second walk away, so I get to see him every day. My mom, both of my grandparents. So family is definitely my number one favorite thing about Oahu and living in Hawaii.
Great. Chris, what's your favorite thing?
I think it's the food. I like the food here. It's better than anywhere else, except maybe Japan. Japan has some great food, but yeah, every time I travel, I miss Hawaii food, and I can't wait to come back.
Okay, Kevin?
I definitely agree with those two. And I also think because we're kind of a small state, there's a level of accountability where everyone kind of knows each other, and you don't have people stepping out of line, and you have people who really care about each other and are, like I've seen every one of you really doing your part, and it's not just when the cameras are out, but it's because it's part of who you are, and I think that that's pretty special.
Yeah, I agree with all of you, and I agree with your last point, Kevin, that does indeed make Hawaii special. And I saw that especially in sports, on the field, on the court, even in the water, if you will. People are fierce competitors, but off the field, your friends, and you really want to push each other to be the best you can be. I also believe when there's a cause in Hawaii and someone needs help or a group needs help, we all rally around that cause or person time and time again. We're the most giving, generous people in the world. I truly believe that, and that's what makes us Hawaii so special, Oahu so special, and that's why we all choose to live here. So anyway, great answers. The next question is, I guess we're getting kind of semi-deep here. What is a word or phrase that describes Oahu today? Carissa.
Well, a word that has been on my mind a lot lately is aloha. I think that's a perfect way to describe home, love, compassion, empathy, respect, generosity. I think those are all qualities that I am I get to witness every day from the people that I interact with, and just our place in general.
Great. Chris?
I I I agree, and I think it's basically home. That's the best word that describes Oahu. I mean, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, especially with what's going on around the world. I mean, with all the unrest and everything, we just have the perfect culture here, the perfect community here. So it's home. This is where I want to be.
Great. Kevin?
What's the question again, Keith?
Oh, yeah.
My favorite word?
Sorry.
Word
or phrase that describes Oahu today?
Today, I'll tell you, it's been pretty empty. It's been kind of nice. I've been going on. The water's been real clean. We've been driving around the island. I don't know. Obviously it's not sustainable, but right now it's like everyone's gotten a little bit of a break and kind of reset the battery, and hopefully we can get it restarted sooner than later. But yeah, it's been pretty peaceful.
True, although I'm noticing a little more traffic out there, which is good and bad. I mean, it's good in that the economy is picking up. But, depending on the day, Kevin, I've seen our basketball courts and our fields, and then the surf spots, man, it's super crowded. I mean, it's good that people are rediscovering the outdoors, but wow, it's I mean, kind of not so good that the surf spots in particular, I've been told by a lot of my friends who say, yeah, it's pretty nuts out there. But anyway, I mean, but overall, I think it's great that people are enjoying the outdoors and rediscovering it. But yeah, it's getting a little crowded out there. So anyway, thanks for your answers, everyone. Next question. So Carissa, what do you think is the most important thing to address as we plan for Oahu's future?
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. That's a great question. I don't know if you should start with me. I think I should take some more time to think about that one.
Yeah, who's the smartest? Let's start with Chris. He's probably the smartest. He's got some wisdom over there.
He's a lawyer. He'll have an answer. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I have an answer. I have the perfect answer. That's your job to figure out. I don't know why you're asking us. We're not the ones running for mayor. That's what you have to figure out. And I don't want to give you the answer and make your job easier, but obviously it's making Oahu be livable and make it sustainable so we can live here, we can raise our families here, so our kids can do it too. I mean, we're lucky enough that we made a living that we could provide for our families, but we have to make it so that like Chris and Kaipo and all our kids can do that too. They can come back here, they can raise their families, and their families can be raised here too.
Okay, good answer. Thank you, Chris. Kevin, and then we'll circle back to Carissa after.
Chris got all the good parts of the answer on that one, so I'm going to back him up and say, yeah, it's hard to get back to Hawaii, right? So it's hard when you're up in the mainland and you're doing all your things and you try to figure out a way to make it back. So more opportunities, more chances, because we're not thinking about so much us, but like it's like the kids graduating now and the kids in my program who, all the things that make Hawaii special, it's special for them too, but we got to make it so that they can be here.
Okay. Kevin, thank you. Carissa? those are good answers. You can just agree and supplement them, or you don't have to be original because they both kind of covered what I'm going to answer after you too. So to be fair, so you're not the only one that has to answer this question.
No, I definitely agree with Chris and Kevin. I think just being able to find a way to make it sustainable. It is tough to make it work here in Hawaii. I have been a witness to a lot of homeless, and poverty and stuff like that. And so how is there a way to lift those people up and make our community stronger? So yes, I just I'm going to tag on to a little bit of both of them.
Yeah. So, I mean, me too. I'll take a crack because heck, I'm running for mayor. I should have some answers to these questions. But same answers as you folks. But also, I mean, the overarching thing I hear from a lot of families and a lot of people who live on the mainland but want to get back here is to the high cost of living. I mean, it's just expensive to live here, and in particular, the high cost of housing. So, we need to do things to address the high cost of housing in particular, and without getting too preachy and mayoral candidate like, I mean, I have a housing for all plan that seeks to make a big dent in our affordable housing shortage on the island, and I think that'll go a long way to making life more livable from an economic standpoint for our families. More immediate, we need to do what we can to reopen the economy. Of course, we need to keep everyone healthy and safe from COVID, but tourism is an important part of our economy, at least for now. And there's 20-something% of our workforce unemployed, and that can't go on for much longer. So we need to have a plan that can get tourists back here, again, safely, whether it's testing before you get on a plane and with paperwork to show that you're COVID free, or testing when you land or something. But I think we need to get our economy going again sooner than later. And then the third of many, many things that the next mayor, hopefully it's me, needs to work on is climate change. I think all of us are sports people or outdoors people. Carissa, you're out in the water, a big part of your life, and we need to address climate change, especially living in an island state like ours, where we have to deal with the rising sea level that's happening as we speak. The projections out there are that sea level in Hawaii is going to rise by at least 3.5 feet by the year 2100. That is a staggering rise in sea level, and it's already happening, like I said. So we have our work cut out for us. I know we're going to work together collectively, not only you folks, but our business leaders, political leaders, and others. And we're going to solve it because our next generation depends on us to do that. So anyway, next question. I hope it's a little more light than, easy. Oh my goodness, this is a easy one. Carissa, what's your favorite surf break on Oahu?
I probably shouldn't say because I'll make the locals mad.
Okay, all right. Just say you like them all.
No, but
or some of your favorite.
I like them all. I've grown up on the South Shore. I still live on the South Shore of Oahu, so I surf a lot of the famous spots like Almoana Bowls, Kewalo Basin, Diamond Head. I actually surfed China Walls for the first time this past swell. So I kind of adventure all along the South Coast.
Good answer. You're a better politician than me, and thank goodness you're not running for mayor. I think you'd beat me. So, but good answer, Carissa. Kevin, if you'd be one tall surfer, but tell me if you go or where do you like, what beach do you like to go? I mean, you don't have to say surf break per se.
Yeah, no, I know my space, right? I'm a big guy. I surf a big board, so I stay far away from anyone else. I'm a basketball guy. I think a lot of, the beach volleyball is my second sport, so I like to just go shoot some hoops once in a while. So, yeah.
Okay, good answer. Chris, you may not be a surf guy, but I know you have other passions in terms of sports, so you don't have to say surf break, but tell me what you what are your hobbies and where do you like to go, sports-wise?
Yeah, so I'm a baseball and softball guy, and I like to golf too. But yeah, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what's my favorite surf break, but I like a lot of fields. I like a lot of golf courses, and I'm waiting to go to Wailai with someone one day.
Okay, I know. Okay, that I haven't forgotten, so we'll do that soon. So, okay, a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up. Best athlete ever from Hawaii. Oh, Carissa, you're so diplomatic. I can't wait to hear what you say for this answer. What are your thoughts?
Well, I am pretty uneducated of most sports, so I'm going to stick to my specialty, which is surfing, and I will say Duke Kahanamoku.
I could have guessed that, and that's a great answer for many different reasons. So, good one. Kevin.
Yeah, that's impossible, right? So many great athletes and so many different sports. I'm going to go with the guy who saved our sports, and I'm going to say Keith, MVP right there.
Wow, so many politicians in on our panel. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Chris Chun, what about you?
Yeah, I would say Kevin or Carissa since they're here and they're phenomenal athletes. But I mean, if I had to only pick one, I'm a baseball guy, so I'd pick Derek Tatsuno or Wally Onamine.
Great answers, both of them. Okay, final question, and this is super easy in my opinion. What is your favorite food stop when you come back home from a trip? Chris is so diplomatic. This is probably hard for her too.
I have two. I'm going to give you two. So
Great.
I have to say my husband owns a spot called Banan, and it's a banana-based frozen fruit soft serve place. And it's healthy and it's a great snack. So I'll have to make a stop at Banan. Then my grandpa's kitchen. He makes the best salmon in the world. And whenever I'm away, that's always what I'm craving. So those two places for me.
Oh, yeah, two good answers. And Carissa, please tell your husband I went to Banan today for lunch and I got the Amazon bowl. I didn't get the Carissa Moore bowl this time, but I will next time. You've made it in life when a store or restaurant has an item on the menu named after you. But I didn't have the Carissa Moore special today. I had the Amazon, but both are great. Go to Banan on Metcalf Street near UH, and there's another couple other locations, but Banan is the best. So try it and you'll love it. Kevin, what's your go-to spot? Yeah, sure.
I like Banan too. I like the Chris Chun bowl. That's pretty sweet. It's spicy. No. I like fresh catch. I'll just go get some poke and kind of cruise, and yeah, that's my go-to. Nothing like here what we have here in Hawaii.
Good choice, and that's near Carissa's neck of the woods, man, right off Wailai Avenue, right? Is that the one, Kevin? You're talking, right? Okay, Chris, what about you?
So I gotta say Zippies. I mean, we wouldn't be able to conduct all our state championships without Zippies. So I gotta say Zippies, and it is one of my favorites. But if we're going favorite non-sponsor place, I'd probably say Tanioka's. I love Tanioka's. I'll drive out there just so I can go get Tanioka's.
Yeah, both good answers, and like you said, Chris, earlier in our discussion, that the food in Hawaii is the best in the world just because of the variety out there. May not always be the healthiest. You got to mix in Banan once in a while with the plate lunches, but they're all super good. And you just got to maintain your diet and or work out after going to Rainbows or Zippies from time to time. But anyway. You guys have been awesome. I want to thank you for being guests on the show. I'll just wrap it up with a few closing remarks and then wish you all a good night. But again, thanks to our three guests for appearing today, Carissa Moore, Kevin Wong, and Chris Chun. Thank you for trusting me with your stories and your issues. Mahalo to everyone at home for joining us to have these important conversations. I'm excited as a mayoral candidate as to what our future holds, and I'm even more hopeful that we have wonderful leaders like these in our community to build our vision together. In Hawaii, we don't do things alone. We work together, whether as a team, whether as a family, and as a community. To solve our problems on Oahu, we're all going to have to work together. That's what I hope to give you when given the opportunity to be your next mayor. I care about Hawaii just like our guests, and I want this to be a place for our future generations, like my son, Chris's son, and many of our family and friends, children and grandchildren. I hope he has the place to move home after he's done with college, because there are good jobs and a quality of life that we can afford. That's what we're all striving for. Good jobs and a great quality of life here in Hawaii and on Oahu. This election is about choice. It's more of the same or taking our city in a new direction. I want to fight for the underdog like I always have, and I'll do everything I can to earn your vote. So thank you everyone out there for joining us. Thank you again to Carissa, Kevin, and Chris for being our guests. It's always a pleasure to work with all of you. Keep doing the great things you're doing in our community. Continue to make us proud. And Carissa, I hope you can make it to Tokyo next year, because I want to see you compete for the gold. So thanks everyone. Thanks Carissa. Thanks Kevin. Thanks Chris. Thanks everyone out in cyberspace. This is the second episode of Conversations with Keith, and we are POW. Good night everyone. Take care. Bye you guys.